Hi there, Sage Canaday of VO2 Max Productions here with another training talk video. Today we're going to talk about half marathon training and how to improve your performance at that event. And it kind of goes in hand with any distance running training principles that I've talked about in my other training talks. You could see in the training section on my YouTube channel. If you subscribe, you get all these training talks, and I go into more detail, marathon training, ultra marathon training there. But today we're specifically going to talk about some key workouts that I think are most effective to cover the 13.1 mile distance. And you know, if you're one of my fellow ultra runner friends, I think it's also beneficial to do this type of speed work in your training to even improve at the longer distances. And the same token goes with marathons. And if you're a shorter distance runner, maybe moving up to the half, these workouts are also very beneficial for doing a full marathon as well. It kind of gives you a springboard into that. And obviously you'd have to tweak some things around, which I'm not going to go into today, but I found through my personal history, especially running the half marathon, very beneficial for moving up later in life or later in the future to achieve your goals there, and to just mix it up in distances, terrain, things like that. And I kind of got the idea of doing this because Mount Washington's coming up again next month, and when I did my best run at Mount Washington 2 years ago, I actually did a half marathon around this time, about a month out, and I was training specifically for that. So that's kind of what reminded me of going back to those roots of developing both speed and strength. So without further ado, here we go into the key workouts. And I first want to say it is a delicate balance between speed and strength. And then there's also a delicate balance between two systems in your body. The skeletal muscular system, your bones, tendons, muscle fibers, things like that, the mechanics of your running. And then also your cardiovascular engine, your heart, your lungs, your capillary, mainly your heart and lungs, revving the engine. So you have these two systems that obviously need to work together for you to achieve your best at the half marathon distance. And these workouts are designed to target those systems kind of simultaneously and to work together to give you a boost in fitness and to cover that distance most efficiently. So here we go. First key workout that I recommend for half marathon training would be to do 2 mile repeats. And this is kind of a variation on the traditional tempo run, the traditional lactate threshold type of training. I mean, it is lactate threshold training basically. You're working at heart rate intensity of 85 to 90% about of your maximal heart rate. And it's right at that kind of critical velocity, that anaerobic threshold, where you start accumulating lactate in your system, starts spiking, turning into lactic acid, and slowing you down. And in layman's terms, basically is the point where you could be running and kind of talking, maybe saying a sentence here and there, to all of a sudden, boom, you're just saying single word expletives, and that's all you could utter out because you're breathing too hard. Maybe you're breathing 2 steps out, 2 steps in, a 2-2 breathing pattern. It's a pretty high intensity. My college coach, Robert Roger Johnson at Cornell, would say it's a comfortably hard intensity. And it's, he'd also say effortless effort, whatever that meant. But you're not floating, you're not fighting all out. You want to run with good form. But it gets challenging, especially maybe in the second mile of each 2 mile repeat. And depending on your weekly mileage, if you're doing 30 miles a week to 40 miles a week, maybe you only want to do you want to start off with 2 by 2 miles and work up to 3 by 2 mile repeats. If you're doing 50 miles a week to 70 miles a week, you could probably do at least 3 or 4 by 2 miles. And if you're doing more than 70 miles a week, go ahead and do 5 by 2 mile repeats. And so you're running 2 miles pretty hard. It's going to be hopefully around goal half marathon pace eventually, or slightly faster, it should be actually. And you're taking a pretty short rest in between each interval, maybe less than half the time it takes you to run the interval, maybe only 5 minutes. So assuming you're probably running over 10 minutes on an interval, you're still maybe taking a 5-minute rest in between. And you could do a light jog or move around, do a light walk in between each rep, but it's not a full recovery. It's not that long of a recovery. And you do these reps maybe once every other week, and then you alternate that every other week with doing a straight up continuous tempo run, 20 to 30 minutes at a slightly slower pace, slightly slower intensity, but still around that half marathon effort. That's going to teach your body at the structural mechanical level to get your legs and your muscle tension up and to be efficient at half marathon race pace or faster. Maybe you're even getting close to 10K race pace when you do these, because you can. But also at the cellular level, just working your heart at a steady rhythm, steady rate. 90% of maximum heart rate is a pretty good value to be humming around at. And you're also developing some buffering capacity to that lactic acid, some sodium bicarbonate type of effect, where you're not going to get slowed down instantly when the burning sensation starts flooding your muscles. And you don't want to cross that threshold really in this workout. You want to approach that limit, and you want to be able to get your threshold, lower your threshold, so that you could run a faster pace without tying up, without developing too much lactic acid. So 2-mile repeats, bread and butter workout. The other key workout for a half marathon is going to be a long run. And depending on your half marathon goals, depending on your running history, this could really vary. But generally, if you extend your long run a little bit up to reasonable levels, you're going to have more strength for conquering the half marathon. And strength really is speed in this term. And if you're running a slightly higher mileage each week, you're probably also better off. But the important thing is not to get too carried away with these long runs. It's not a half marathon race. You're not going out there to break any speed records every time. But maybe at the end of the long run, you do pick up the pace a little bit. You get close to marathon race pace. And you don't have to run half marathon race pace in these long runs. Even if your weekly mileage is relatively low and your long run only tops out at 10 to 12 miles. But if you're up over 40 miles a week, 50 miles a week, I would recommend at least doing a 15-mile long run for a half marathon. I'd say 40 to 45 miles a week, get up to a 14 or 15-mile long run. And obviously if you're higher than that, you're probably doing 15 to 20-mile long runs anyway. That's good over distance strength for a shorter event, 13.1 miles. And you could definitely break up the long runs a little bit. You could do strides at the end of them to develop those fast twitch muscle fibers. You could throw in a little fartlek even at the end of a long run. But it could be a comfortably hard effort, and you definitely want to take 2 easy days or a recovery day after each one of these workouts. And that's the other thing I should mention. I almost always take 2 easy days between each significant workout like this. Tempo run, long run. It's always two easy days. And I found that to really help, to be beneficial, and to run those easy days at a really slow pace. It doesn't even matter what pace you're running at, as long as it's super easy and you could talk and have a conversation and you just feel nice and relaxed. You can throw the watch out. Don't even worry about pace on those easy days. I might even be doing a 4-4 breathing pattern on those days, and that really helps you absorb the harder workouts and recover. Then in your final preparation, in the final maybe 4 weeks before your half marathon peak race, that's when I would throw in more of a VO2 max type of workout emphasis. And VO2 max, layman terms, you're looking at intervals on the track, you're looking at some pain, you're looking at heart rates approaching 100%. And usually these are the best VO2 max workout, I think, for a flat 13.1 mile race would be doing mile repeats or 1,000-meter repeats. And I'd opt for the shorter. You could mix it up maybe every other week with the distances, because 1 kilometer repeats are good shorter stimulus. You can go a little bit faster, maybe actually hit VO2 max velocity, 3K to 5K race pace velocity. And then the mile repeats, more a little strength building, but still significantly faster than half marathon race pace for most people. And it would be something around 8K to 10K race pace. And you're also doing these with a short rest, maybe 3 to 5 minute rest in between each mile repeat, depending on how long it takes you kind of. So your heart rate stays elevated while you're resting. And you're hitting a good 92 to 98%, maybe even hitting 100% on your last rep. And this is going to induce some lactic acid. You're going to be breathing really hard. Your VO2 max, you're trying to get your heart rate basically as high as possible. But you don't want to be tied up with lactic acid. You don't want to be thrashing around the track with horrible form and just, you know, totally gutting yourself out. You want to save that for the race. You want to do these pretty controlled, but they're going to be pretty hard, and you want to make sure you pace yourself well enough so that you do enough of them to get the good VO2 max stimulus. And for a lot of people, there's going to be at least 3 miles worth of work, so you're looking at, you know, at least 5 or 6 by a kilometer, 3 mile repeats. If you're at higher mileage range, 70 miles a week, you could probably do 5 by 1 mile repeat would be a good workout. And you know, keep it controlled, but make sure you touch on that VO2 max, and you're gonna be breathing hard. But that's gonna make you a lot more efficient at the cardiovascular level and at the structural mechanical level for half marathon race pace and the demands of the race. So it'll feel more like a jog, and that's a good feeling to have. So those are my 3 key workouts types for the half marathon, and those are 3 examples that I do. I'm going to use those too as I'm training for Mount Washington, because it's about a same time that I'd be competing in a half marathon, maybe a little less at Mount Washington, but for most people it's about the same time that you'd be running 13 miles on the flats. So, you know, whether that's an hour or 2 hours, it doesn't really matter. These principles will apply. And same thing for ultra runners moving down. This is great speed work for you guys. I think it'll improve anything, even your 50-mile time. So you know, thanks for all the support. I really appreciate all the comments and all the subscriptions, and stay tuned for more VO2 Max Productions. Ow. Oh yeah, and just one more thing. Feel free to comment below with any ideas that you'd want to see in a future Training Talk video, and the one that gets the most thumbs up will be one that'll catch my attention, hopefully, and be in a future VO2 Max Productions Training Talk. So thanks again for all the subscriptions and all the views. I really appreciate the support, and best of luck with your own training and racing. Take care.